Good evening, everybody. My name's Matthew Sweet. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this BAFTA tribute to Phyllis Dalton. Phyllis Dalton never wanted to design pretty frocks. In fact, when you hear her saying, "There's nothing wrong with designing pretty frocks," you sense what a boring occupation it must be compared with making trousers for a giant, or dematerializing Peter O'Toole in a cloud of white cotton, or deciding which shade of green Fagin ought to be, or dressing the Russian army for a march across the steppe, which is not the Russian steppe at all, but a stretch of Spain blanketed with asbestos dust. Like the billowing sleeves of Peter O'Toole's Thorb, Phyllis Dalton goes back a long way. She has military experience. She was a Wren during the war. She worked at Bletchley Park. She signed the Official Secrets Act, as you'll discover if you ask her about working on a film called Zarak with Anita Ekberg and Victor Mature. She had the best of starts at Gainsborough Studios, where the corsetry was almost as important as the stars themselves, and on Laurence Olivier's Henry V, for which she raided a button shop on Old Compton Street in order to add lustre to Renee Asherson's Princess Catherine. 45 years later, with the button shop long gone and an army of assistants at work for her, she was doing the same for Emma Thompson. Between those two battles of Agincourt, she's clothed an army of stars and supporting artists. The Red Army, the British Army, the US Army, the Cossacks, the Nazis, the Afghans, the Knights of the Round Table, twice, the Jacobites, the Jacobins, Jack Hawkins. She was with General Burgoyne at Saratoga. She was with Muhammad at the Siege of Medina. She was with General Patton in Bavaria in the summer of 1945. No wonder they gave her an MBE.
Phyllis has designed everything from low-budget television movies to huge epics. And she's collaborated with the cinema's greatest directors and movie stars. I take her work, her career with me everywhere I go. It's portable. That's because it's lodged indelibly in my and your memory. And this is what it's all about. It's not so much about the fabric. Movies are about people, and people are the emotional core of every single movie. And we must care deeply about the resolution, whether in Private Function, or in Lord Jim, or in Lawrence of Arabia. Phyllis has said that costume design is about making the characters look real. They should look right, and ultimately, if you're doing your job right, no one should notice the costumes. Costume design is not just about the clothes. Although the clues to the character are set within the script, it is the interpretation by the actor and the director and their key collaborators that breathes life and personality into every fictional being. No matter the era that the story takes place, the audience is asked to believe, and this is key, that the people in the movie are real and that they have had a life prior to the start of the movie. And that we join our cast of characters at one moment in their life. Everything about them must ring true, including their clothes. Phyllis has said that the important thing about being a costume designer is not to put your own taste and your own personality forward. It's nothing to do with you. You have to detach yourself completely and do what's right for the story every single time. It's very easy to make smart costumes or a good-looking dress. It's much more difficult to make the people from the past who are wearing ordinary clothes look real. The costume designer gives the clothes to the actor gives the character to the director, and the director is the one who tells the story. When a character in a film ignite the public's imagination, the costumes can ignite worldwide fashion trends and influence global culture. Cinematic icons are born, when the audience falls deeply in love with the people in the story. And Mr. Sharif, that's when I fell deeply in love with you. When I watched you come, felt like an hour it took you to come in from from the horizon. Time, and it was worth the wait. I fell madly in love at that moment. I will never forget it in my life. I'm sure my husband forgives me. But whether it's that moment in Lawrence of Arabia, whether it's Oliver, whether it's Zhivago, that's what the movie's costume design, and this is the tremendous contribution of costume designer Phyllis Dalton. That's what great films are all about. Thank you.
Now we're going to hear from one of Phyllis's leading men who couldn't be with us tonight. This is from a film from the 1980s. It's a film that for me is summed up by the image of a toenail clipping landing on a coffee cream. I think you know who's going to appear on the screen next. It's Michael Palin.
Hello, Phyllis. I just want to say congratulations and thank you. You really knew how to dress a chiropodist. Not an easy thing to do. And I'm terribly sorry I got the costume so filthy, but I blame the pig.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this well-deserved tribute. Phyllis, you had the misfortune to work with Ken Branagh and the Renaissance team at the beginning of our careers, when we had very little idea of what we were doing. Our plan was actually to surround ourselves with the very best people on the assumption that they would know what they were doing and therefore cover our arses. You were at the very top of our wish list, and our first surprise was that you agreed to do it. We first worked together on Henry V, which, as well as being the first film that I ever worked on behind the camera, also marked my transition from part-time actor to full-time producer. Ken wants to make sure that everyone who'd acted in our theatre company made an appearance, however brief, in the film, and against my better judgment, he persuaded me to appear in the very important character of the messenger to the French tents. My day arrived and I was pulled out of a cost report meeting to be dressed by Phyllis's team, and she had found me a rather beautiful blue embroidered cloak, because the French were the sort of flashiest dressers on the movie, and he also gave me a flamboyant hat with a large feather. But when I walked onto the set, I think Ken, sort of seeing me out of my civvies, laughed so much that he had to be taken off the set. And I was actually directed by our first assistant director, David Tringham, and you won't be surprised to hear that my fine performance didn't actually make it into the film. As you can tell, I'm still scarred by this, and I'm going to send you my therapist's bill. Phyllis, it was a real privilege to work with you. I learnt a huge amount. I'm much better at it now, I promise, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
It's a very sad fact that anybody working in films often do their best work in projects that don't come off or are cancelled or fail and disappear into oblivion. So that at the end of one's life, one can be totally forgotten in spite of the quality of one's work. Well, Phyllis, however, has worked on so many projects that became classics, total classics of the cinema. Obviously, noticeably, Lawrence of Arabia, notably. So as long as people watch movies, Phyllis will be remembered and revered.
There's a shot that ended the first half of Dr. Zhivago, of this terrifying and ruthless Russian leader, Strelnikov, me actually, standing on the back of a train as it races by, and all the people saying, oh, Strelnikov. It turns out that Strelnikov is no less than that young lad we see over there, who's we took for dead, some time before in the film. And since, therefore, it was my sort of reincarnation, David was greatly exercised as to what I should wear as Strelnikov. Should I have a lot of fur to keep out the Russian winter, or should I wear leather, which would be more austere? Now, Phyllis, knowing David only too well, had a sackful of hats and coats, and so we went on, and that look is so typical of David. He's looking at me. Leather, hat, fur, coat. No, fur hat, leather coat. Leather hat, leather coat, fur coat. Anyway, at one point, Phyllis found this huge, great fur thing, and like this. And David said, "I think we're getting into the silly buggers area now." Anyway, we did the shot, and I didn't have the heart to say so, but I didn't think he was doing it close enough, because, I mean, the audience had to think, oh, that's that lad we thought was dead. And he shot it sort of there and there, but I didn't have the dare say anything. Anyway, we had to reshoot it because the train was making everything shake. And so we assembled a few days later, and off we went again. Leather hat, leather, red star here, red star there. Anyway, we got the shot finally, and it was dressed as Phyllis had originally intended. And so these 2 days were a great tribute not only to her talent, but to her patience and fortitude.
Phyllis, why did you leave me after the two films we made together? Nothing has become good after that. The only 2 good films I made were those 2 films. Of course, David Lee was there. He was okay. He was not too bad. But you were there. Maybe you have good luck apart from the costumes and all that you put us on. But I've got a sort of thing of saying something has gone into me. It's been 50 years now I haven't worked with you, Phyllis. 50 years. Try and take one more film with me. I haven't done anything that's anything good to anybody. Do it for me, please. I love you so much, although it's been a long time. Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Bye.
My goodness, what an evening. I just feel so humble and so touched. And thank you, everybody, for coming, especially Omar and Tom, Peter, Jane, everybody. I can't remember everyone's name now. But it's one of the best evenings of my life, and I've had some. So thank you all so much. And,
I think we need one last round of applause for Phyllis, who proves, I think, that not every cinematic genius needs a camera. Some of them can do it just with a needle and thread.